Hello, what's your name?
I'm Van Stone from the Philadelphia Front Page News. I'm also the editor, publisher, and owner of other magazines around the city of Philadelphia. And I'm also the owner of radio stations. One of them is WVSR, stands for West Philadelphia Van Stone Radio. 1360 is on your FM dial, but also 89.1 FM on your FM dial, and other radio stations and affiliates around Philadelphia and the surrounding areas of Philly.
Okay. First question I'm going to ask is, how did you and others in Philly Funk Radio contribute to your life?
Well, Philly Funk Radio was a big part of my life because at the time that I began to step away from other broadcasting stations, as a licensed broadcaster and working around other stations in the city that many of them people listen to, DAS, Power 99, so forth and so on. And I decided after a while, because I work with the community a lot and the lead broadcaster dealing with community, that I would create my own radio station. So Philly Funk Radio is part of a partnership radio station with another affiliate, but creating that so that we can have all of the listeners and followers, but also we have news content and weather content, which is very important, which is Philly Funk Radio is about.
Okay, so the second question I'm going to ask you is, what made you join Reading Captains?
Okay. Oh, well, the Reading Captain is a great thing. It's about helping children to read by the fourth grade, or I would say up to the fourth grade, because on their own they may read for a while, and then unless someone encourages them, they may not pick up a book. And especially with all the games that we have today, from PlayStation to all the other type of games, kids, just don't think that books are that popular, but books last, and they last beyond that. So being a reading captain, that means that taking the title of a captain, the captain is usually the leader of a group, but is an independent individual who also encourages others. And that's what the Reading Captains is about. Encouraging kids to read, encouraging their parents to encourage kids to read. And you really don't have to read a book to them, but trying to get the kids to read books themselves. And that's what the Reading Captains became a Philadelphia thing for me. And the citywide representative of the Reading Captains, that's who I am, dealing with the Philadelphia Free Library and also the Philadelphia School District. That's how that came about.
Okay, so I think I already sort of asked this question. So what's the story of Philly Funk Radio? What made you think of making it before? Like, you said that you were working on radio before making your own radio station. So go further through that in further detail.
Okay. Well, there's two types of radio. There's one that you listen to in your home or in your car, which is antenna radio. And then there's also internet, which is they call streaming, as we all know. So both internet and also antenna are FM components. So you have to know a little bit about how a radio station operates. And the oldest form of radio, of course, is AM frequency. So it's AM, which goes longer distance than FM. And then, of course, internet changes the game because it allows it to be international. Anywhere in the world that someone can have access to Wi-Fi or any kind of internet access using their cell phone, computer, they can listen to the radio. So at the time, as I said, I'm a pioneer when it comes to starting the internet radio. I left the in-person radio station. Some of the affiliates were WPEB, West Philadelphia Radio, and I decided to create my own. Since I had my own show called Van Stone Digest, it was a weekly show, for about an hour. We had different guests come in and talk and ask questions, or they would just update us on things that we don't know, what's happening around the city, but not just necessarily the city of Philadelphia. It could be any state. And that's why I wanted to go internet access. And so it allows us to have people all over the country, any state, and also international, from Dominican Republic to other locations outside of the country, even Africa. They could listen to the station and the program. So that's why I decided to be one of the first Black Americans that started internet radio here in Philadelphia, and it's been a success since then.
Okay, so another question I want to ask you is mixture of two questions. What was your childhood like, and any trials and tribulations that you had to go through, not just in childhood but also in adulthood too? So you can answer both.
Sure. My childhood was pretty good. I was in a special all-boys class. Back then, in 1968, it was different here, of course, in Philadelphia or around the country. I'm a 1960s baby dealing with civil rights and so forth. The icons at that time, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and also James Baldwin. Those are the three that really kept my attention going when I was a child. And before the assassinations had happened with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and we still had the enduring legacy of James Baldwin, that's what led me to want to do more. So as a child actor, actually was doing media as a child in elementary school, and we were doing plays, and we were also doing radio, and we were doing television as well. So I was trained to do this, as an elementary school first and second grade student. Now, as far as difficulties and traumas that I've been through, yes, I come from a broken home after being 12 years old and going into the 7th grade. My parents broke up. That was very difficult for me to try to understand what to do and how to survive, which pretty much, thank goodness for being in the special classes in elementary. Like I said, those things really trained me to carry on. And so getting through that, I was able to finish through school, graduate high school, and even enter college at Cheney University and turn things around. And always as a writer, being a creator of comics. So I'm a comic creator. We have comic strips called Heroes of the Last Q. That's based on part of my story, and of course, Blacks in Space, giving Blacks the really opportunity to get more awareness. And even currently, here now in 2026, we have a new comics card, just like a baseball card. So we have different characters, my own original characters with themes, and especially tying in from Jamaican superheroes as an example. And that's what we're pushing, culture awareness.
Okay, so going back to the reading captains, what's your view on the impact of reading captains, not just for you, but for the whole community, not just for the whole community, the whole Philadelphia community? Do they want to expand, not just to where they at right now, but go even farther for that, possibly go outside of Philadelphia, other cities, especially other inner cities of New York, Baltimore, Atlanta, etc.
Right. Well, the Reading Captains is the pilot for Philadelphia, but it doesn't limit you. You don't have to live in Philadelphia. So that's a great question. So we have people from Virginia who became reading captains, and all the trainings, you get that online, so you don't have to come in person. We have Upper Darby, which is a borough surrounding Philadelphia, area. We have Yaden as well. And reading captains is really important because the same problem when it comes to illiteracy, especially with Black children. Of course, there's an illiteracy problem with white children as well, but there's a high number of illiteracy problem with Black children. So with the reading captains, we can expand that to anyone who wants to take that model, which is share a book, give a book away, let them borrow a book. So instead of just going to the library to borrow books, you can have your own book collection, pass a book to the neighbor, sit some books out on the steps, or even create something where people can walk by it and they can open and close the item that's put together there and take out books and bring books back. So this is the type of things that can spread all throughout, past Philadelphia. And it's a great concept, especially for kids who love books.
Okay, so this is another double question. The first one of the questions were, what would you tell your young self? And the second question is, any advice for young people, especially if they want to pursue their dreams, not just in media, but like, oh, maybe they want to start their own business, or maybe they want to do their own thing, but they feel like they can't do it. Like, yeah, like, do you have any advice for like the young people out here that want to like aspire to be something?
Sure. First of all, I would tell my young selves to work even harder, because hard work is so important. And it's about the rewards of the hard work, not just awards. So you can work hard and get several awards, but at the end of the day, you may just know that alone, or maybe your family may know that. But when you do hard work, you go beyond awards and you get the reward. The reward is you get to build yourself up, have self-esteem, and know that you can accomplish many things, especially when you doubt that you could be successful. That's one. So as far as a recommendation to the young people or anybody else, seniors as well, they're participants in media. They view more content. I would make a suggestion, get to know more how to use the computer. And once they're able to do that, then they can, explore, being in one location, but use their mind by getting other information. And that way they can still create something that they may have always dreamed of. Even physical, they have limitations as you're older, but this is for people who are disabled or not. The wonderful thing about media is that as long as you have a function and a will and the attitude that you want to do something, know what you want to do, then media can be yours by the simple use of a cell phone, like I said, which most people have a cell phone, or get some internet access.
Okay, another question I want to ask you is, what do you do outside of Philly Funk Radio, Leading Captains, Heroes of the Last Q, and Philly Front Page News?
Okay, what I also do is I really have a relationship with a lot of parents dealing with dealing with the crossing guards. That means it's a citywide. Most cities, you can't name hardly a borough or a city or a town that doesn't have a crossing guard. So I spend a lot of time encouraging that, and trying to share how to concentrate on being there for the children and parents as they're going to school and as they're coming back from school to go back home. That's a big process, and we'd love to do more safe streets with that and cover more safety, which is important so that we can make sure, that they can get their education, and even with all the distractions, they still can get where they need to go and get back home safely.
Okay, so, yeah, I think you already mentioned this, I don't know, I'm going to ask, what's the future for Heroes of the Last Q, Reading Captains, and Philly Funk Radio, and Philly Front Page News? Like, what's your future for whatever endeavor that you do now, and what you want to do in the near future?
Well, the future for Heroes of the Last Q is to turn the animation into something where people can get it, whether it's on a big screen or the little screen. A little screen is, simply put, like I said, you can go online, have that set up animation-wise, and you can watch it yourself on YouTube. Or some big movie company pick up Heroes of the Last Q and follow the storyline and see how important it is today, especially dealing with civics and government, but also youth, because Heroes of the Last Q, the heroes in this case, most of them are youth, or they're teenagers, or they may even be a little younger than teens. So that's a great thing for that. As far as Philadelphia Front Page News, we want that to carry on and be bigger and grow. We have over 1 million listeners and viewers. You can go to www.fpnnews.org. Once again, that's www.fpnnews.org, and you can read the online newspaper and magazine. We want to expand that and have more youth-involved writers tell their stories, even if it's through poetry. So that's another thing, covering that information. And as far as just the Van Stone brand, Van Stone Philadelphia, you can look up Van Stone Philadelphia and see just how, strong we would like to tie in with universities, other entities they're like cities within the city who are looking to service the families educational-wise, and we would like to be there for them so we can help them when it comes to if there's any kind of challenge, mental health challenge to just physical challenge to even emotional challenge. So that's our goal. And we hope that Van Stone Productions Foundation is the name of the organization, and everything is really run through that name.
Okay, another question I want to ask is, I know I asked your son this, but the characters on Heroes of the Last Key, Roger Robbie, U7, Showtime Tiger, and other characters that is on Heroes of the Last Q, and what are those characters?
Well, Roger Robbie is named after my first grade teacher, Herb Rogers Jr. He's the originator of that. So we're going way back when I met my first teacher, like I said, 1968, first grade, second grade. And then, of course, Roger Robbie, he's a animal. He's a raccoon, and he's a hip-hop raccoon, or is a raccoon that could be anything, and that also changes the image or the thought of what most people at one time thought raccoons were really connected to rodents and so forth and so on. But raccoons are really good and necessary animals in the community, and as far as vegetarians concerned and food and so forth. So when you see how the raccoon has a balance in being success, seeking very smart. Roger Robbie is the mascot that represents what we do with all our superhero characters. And of course, we have a lead character which is named U7. That is the star character of Heroes of the Last Q. A male, of course, young boy who turns with powers and becomes a superhero. We also have Shaddai, so we have Shaddai Chiropractor. That is based on, of course, it sounds Spanish language. So we have all the cultures. We have English language, Spanish language. We have French. And these characters and superheroes, they deal with the ordinary. And at the end of the day, solve problems and come up with, prevention and great things so that people can enjoy themselves while they also deal with trying to be a hero, everyday hero. That's mainly the thing for that. And like I had said before, all the other things, they all tie in to success. And so with the Van Stone brand, if you really look up Van Stone Philadelphia, you'll find so many different things that comes up under the brand.
Okay, so another question I want to ask you is, I don't want to make this sound like narcissistic for you, but like any accomplishments you want to harp and talk about that you are proud of wanting to talk about, especially knowing that you're involved with the community and like you do many other things. Like, what are the accomplishments you've done in as a radio host, or not just as a radio host, but being involved in the community or anything else?
Well, one of the big things I was able to do is become an author. And that's very important in the black community because it really encouraged others to write. You can be a poet and write poetry. So there's so many different ways to write books, and also create posters. Also, when it comes to the arts, you can draw. And even if you think that you cannot draw that well, the thing about the arts, I'm very successful, award-winning, with a comic strip that's named after Heroes of the Last Q. There's a book, and that's based on the award-winning comic strip which ran for 2 years here in Philadelphia, went national. And so with understanding how the success of Heroes of the Last Q, the story about blacks in space, and then with Roger Robbie, the educational mascot, also went national in the schools. I think that is very, very, really important to me. And I'm glad that I was, I'm still able to help do these characters, because basically with Roger Robbie and Heroes of the Last Q, we're talking about 50 years. 50 years. So this has been around for 50 years. And that's something, to really stand on, being around for 50 years on the same concept.
Okay, so another question I want to ask you is because I remember one of the previous interviews that we did that I asked you about like your childhood. And this is about like a particular thing that you did in your childhood that you done teaching and as a child. And like, has teaching helped influence you, like helping you more as an adult?
Yes, it has helped me, because when I first started working, I was a child myself. Your first